Hey Connor, it's Dan. Now, I am worried about you. When I came up, all we knew was college. You have not went that road. Now, you're in a time when things have changed so much that college isn't as much a priority anymore. But there's a part of me that's conservative. There's a part of me that knows that you are doing the right thing. But you have to understand why I'm so concerned. So I need you to call me as soon as possible so we can talk about this.
Joining me here today is a 17-year-old marketing strategist.
He is the 18-year-old CEO and founder of Youthlogic.
Gen Z marketing and branding strategist.
The proxy for understanding, I think, all generations starts with youth culture and it bleeds through, but it's so fucking quick now.
I don't even think it's a question of where do you see the future with that going. I think there's no future without it.
I want to create a massive business.
And I think if we could get kids to embrace the idea at a young age of being entrepreneurial, we could change everything in the world that's a problem today.
All generations want the same thing, right? Wealth, prosperity, happiness, all that shit.
Please welcome
Connor Blakley. Connor Blakley.
It's Connor Blakley.
It's Connor Blakley.
When I was 13, a lot of my friends would do homework for me. I didn't really feel like doing homework. I hated math, I hated science, I hated the majority of my classes. But I had all these really brilliant friends, so I would go to them and have them do the homework for me, and then when they gave me the homework that was completed, I'd take pictures of it and resell it to other kids. The school caught wind of that when I was 13, and I almost got kicked out of middle school for starting a homework selling network. Around the same time, I also got diagnosed with ADD and dyslexia and ADHD, so the first experience I had of seeing a problem and then solving it, I was told by people who were above me that it was bad, that I was bad for, in my mind, solving a problem. I understand, this is a very extreme example, I was 13, but the formative years of psychological development are 9 to 15. So in my mind, the system that I've grown up in my entire life is now rejecting me for something that I believed in my heart was a good idea.
I was dyslexic. I had no understanding of schoolwork whatsoever. I certainly would have failed IQ tests.
They did try to diagnose me with ADHD. I said,
but I was such a horrific student in school that the kids made fun of me. I couldn't read.
What we're doing is we're giving them Ritalin and saying, don't be an entrepreneurial type, fit into this other system and try to become a student.
After that experience and ending up in the principal's office, I heard the word entrepreneur for the first time. So I went on YouTube and I Googled ADD entrepreneur, and I stumbled upon this TED talk by this guy named Cameron Herold called Let's Raise Kids to be Entrepreneurs Instead of Lawyers.
I think we miss an opportunity to find these kids who have the entrepreneurial traits and show them that being an entrepreneur is actually a cool thing. It's not something that is a bad thing and is vilified, which is what happens in a lot of society. When I was in grade 2, I won a citywide speaking competition, but nobody had ever said, hey, this kid's a good speaker. He can't focus, but he loves walking around and getting people energized. No one had said, get him a coach in speaking. They said, get me a tutor in what I suck at. So as kids show these traits, and we need to start looking for them, I think we should be raising kids to be entrepreneurs instead of lawyers. I think we have an obligation as parents and a society to start teaching our kids to fish instead of giving them the fish.
And I feel like everyone has certain moments in their life where they feel like a light bulb goes on in their head. This was that for me at a very young age. This is the first time where I felt like I'd seen someone who understood me, who I'd never talked to, but I felt like I could resonate with. When I watched that video, I felt like I was at home. Immediately right after that, I figured, hey, the worst thing that could happen is this guy could say no, screw off 13-year-old kid. But he didn't. I emailed him 7 times in 3 days and he got back to me. Later the next week, we got on a Skype call, and to this day, me and Cameron are still very close friends. A little bit after that experience with Cameron, I was doing further research into entrepreneurship and all of these things, and I came across a Gary Vee video. This is before Gary was putting out a monstrous amount of content. So I'd emailed Gary and he got back to me too. He invited me to South by Southwest to shadow him for an entire day. After I got that initial response from Gary and Cameron and saw what their advice did to me, I realized that if I could talk to as many smart and brilliant people as I could, then I would shorten my learning curve so I could get to where I wanted to quicker. So in class, instead of doing homework, we were allowed to have our laptop. So I would go and send 350 cold emails a day. After those first 2 calls, I got the inspiration to start my first company. In 2014, 2015, there weren't a lot of small to medium-sized businesses that were on social media and doing all of the things that they should have been doing. There was no kid in in America who was helping all these big brands better understand their target consumers who are Gen Z. So I started this company called Youthlogic. So I went out and worked with a bunch of local restaurants. My first client was a deli across from my high school, and basically got them set up and managed their social media profiles. As I tell a lot of these stories, people the entire time ask me, Connor, were you in school? What was happening? Were you missing too much? Were teachers mad at you? Yes, all of those things are true, but it hit a climax my senior year of high school. I'd already gotten kicked out once, junior year of high school, and they said, Connor, if you travel at all for work, we're gonna kick you out. Whatever, I traveled, they kicked me out, but I lobbied with a lot of the rich alumni who donate to the school, and they let me back in. My senior year, they go, Connor, you can't travel at all. You miss one day for anything work related and you're not sick, you're out. So I'm doing good, I'm staying in school, I have a great trajectory, I feel like I'm gonna graduate with all my friends. Then I get an email on a Wednesday afternoon from the then CEO of Sprint named Marcelo Claire, who said, hey listen, I have an offer for you and I wanna talk about it on Monday. And at the time, with the discussions I was having, that amount of money and that deal was so life-changing to me, and it would have been my first Fortune 50 client. So because of the magnitude of this opportunity that I really felt like I couldn't pass up, I went to the doctor, got a real doctor's note, passed it off to the school as a fake one, and booked my flight to be in Kansas City for that Monday afternoon meeting. I'm sitting there outside of the office about 15 minutes before the biggest meeting of my life at the time, and I keep hearing my phone go bzz, 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 bzz. It's my dad, and I have 3 missed calls. Shortly after that, I get another phone call. And I'm like, what's going on? I pick up the phone. It was a president of the high school I was attending, and he said, Connor, we know you're in Kansas City for work. You're done. 10 minutes before the biggest meeting of my life at the time, and I'm like 16 and a half, 17. I walk in, and if you know who Marcelo is, he's wearing like a sweater, joggers, and Yeezys, and he's sitting in the chair. He puts his feet up. I walk in and sit down, and he goes, what are you gonna tell me? What are you gonna teach me? And as I start to answer his question, he goes, hold on a second, how old are you? I go, I'm 17, and he goes, Connor, shouldn't you be in school? What's going on? And I look at him dead in the eye and go, you know what? I actually just got kicked out of high school about 10 minutes ago. And he smiled and he started laughing, and about a half an hour later, I walked out with the biggest deal of my life at the time closed. Scooter Braun says something that I think is so amazing, and he tells a story about when he was managing Justin Bieber and Asher Roth in the very early days. He only had $2,000 left in his bank account, and he's paying for both of their living expenses. And he called his dad for advice. And Scooter's dad told him, just when you're on the edge of adversity and you feel like everything's gonna collapse, push 10 times harder. And Scooter pushed 10 times harder, and the next week, Asher Roth's I Love College went platinum, right? So for me, in this moment, that was the first example in my life taking a risk where I felt like it would pay off. And for me, now looking back where I'm at now, this set the trajectory for how I was going to operate my life on a day-to-day basis and for the rest of my career. And this was another instance in my life where I felt like I was going into something with a good heart and a good intent that would benefit my life and all the things I wanted to accomplish, but I was being told no, and that I was wrong, and that my intent didn't matter. I'm getting no's from school. I'm having screaming matches with my parents every night. It was having my friends' parents question if they wanted their kids hang out with a kid who just got kicked out of one of the most prominent high schools in Ohio. It was kids who I didn't even know DMing me on Twitter or trying to dog me on Twitter for starting a company and trying to do everything. And once again, this whole entire time, I felt like I was going into it with a good heart and a good intent, setting myself on a trajectory of trying to create the life I wanted to live. Here's the thing, when you're trying to do big things, people with small minds feel like they're getting attacked. Big ideas make small minds feel inferior. The youth marketing consultancy, Youthlogic, that I was talking about earlier, I sold in the summer of 2018. Now, one thing that a lot of people do when they sell a company and try to move on to the next thing is figure out, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do now? It's a popular thing to go out and raise a lot of money, start speaking more, do all of these things. For me, this entire process, this entire thing, everything I've been doing so far, I kept getting these notes from kids all over the world who were saying, Connor, are you putting content out? Or do you write anything? And to be honest with you, I was so busy doing other stuff, I never took the time to make a video like this video. So what I feel like my core truth and my mission has boiled down to is literally only creating content that I wish I could have seen when I was 14. Imagine if I didn't stumble across that video of Cameron Harold, if he wouldn't have given me the time. I would never be doing what I'm doing now. And here's what's crazy is those people were old. What's even more beautiful about the world we live in right now in 2019 is it's possible for you. It 100% is. If your school's telling you no, if your parents are telling you no, if you're in your basement and you love guitar, you love to rap, or you love selling things, or you love being an artist, all of those things are okay, and that's your truth, that's your heart, that's what you're passionate about. You don't have to listen to all this bullshit that people are trying to sell you. In full honesty, they probably are telling you because they care about you, but the reality of the situation is you can't let other people's opinions inflect on who you believe you are as a person, because at the end of the day, what all of these people want for you is a safe route. But what's so sad is the safe route is not always the best route. All of the things that you see and consume on social media of all of this success probably makes you feel like it's impossible for you to start, and all of that's unattainable. My first client was literally the deli across from my high school that paid me $200 in free food. Nobody on social media will highlight any of the stories that shows what it took them to get to where they are because they don't want to seem uncool. I wish I would have had a story like this that could have shown me how attainable and simple it was to get started with no resources, rather than just people showing their successes. At the end of the day, what I want this channel to be is an outlet that I wish I had when I was 14. I don't care if these videos get 10,000 views, 4 views, 10 million views. If I can help literally one of you not get to the sunken, toxic place that I was in at that time, then this entire thing is worth it for me.
Been a little too nice to y'all. Now I gotta up price for y'all. Snake eyes on dice for y'all. Shoulders on ice for y'all.
Frozen.
H6 all the hate. I won't get involved today. Got lost in the ball and age.